back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And in this video I'm going to get into the RPGs that will be on my table this coming gaming season for me, which is winter, that are not Dungeons and Dragons. So if that interests you, stick around to find out more. But let me get my disclaimer out of the way first. If you like the content, click the like button. It lets me know you like it. And if you are new here, you just stopped in, you enjoy RPGs, you enjoy everything tabletop role-playing games, you found the right place. Don't forget to click the subscribe button, followed by the bell icon, so when I upload a video, you'll get a notification so you do not miss one. So, for those of you that have been with me for a while, you know I love Dungeons and Dragons. I'm huge into Dungeons and Dragons. I have every edition ever printed by Dungeons and Dragons, and for a very, very large amount of my gaming history, I guess we could say, has been dominated by Dungeons and Dragons. But Dungeons and Dragons is not the only RPG system out there. There are so many more really good RPG systems out there, and there are even so many more bad RPG systems out there as well. Some of them that are extremely vague and just too randomized to really, for me, to really engage with. And then other ones that just seem to be, it almost seems like the most amount of their money was put into the production cost of the booklet and the art and everything else, and the content's just, so that's where I'm at with that. But this summer has been a very interesting summer for me. It really has. I have been a couple of good friends with mine that I keep in touch with on a regular basis, whether it's across Facebook or we do a Zoom meeting and have a game session. And recently, of late, one of my friends, he's very computer savvy. As a matter of fact, that's what he does for a living, is computers. And he introduced me to a program called Tabletop Simulator, which is excellent because he's on the other side of the country and he has a lot of the same board games I have. And when we're not playing solo, we can always jump on the Tabletop Simulator and enjoy a game. But interesting enough, the thing about hanging out with my friends and talking with them and getting different viewpoints, which is good. It's something that I really actually did need. For the longest time, I have just been 100% totally high fantasy driven type of RPG systems, which you could sum up as D&D. But recently, I have gotten more into sci-fi, and surprising enough, I really do enjoy it. And well, there's a few game systems here I want to share with you and talk about and bring to the table, or maybe to your table, that you may find interesting. Along with another board game that I had found that, in my opinion, is a diamond in the rough. It really is, if you want to look at it that way. I think it's been overlooked, and before you run out and spend a whole lot of money on that reprint of the Hero Quest board game, which, in my opinion, just does not seem worth the money, but that's me. You may want to check this one out first. But without further ado, let's jump into the RPG systems and talk about them. And some of these I've done reviews on before in videos, and some of them I have not. So, but without further ado, the first one I'm going to get into and talk about, I had picked up early in the summer of this year, and I had read over the book, as I like to do with my RPGs. So what I like to do when I get a brand new RPG is read through it, familiarize yourself with it like you normally would, and then typically I will generate a character. How I like to do it is make a character that's just strictly melee class, and then one that if there's a utilization of spells and stuff like that, another class like that. Play 2 small mini solo adventures with them that may consist of 2-3 rooms at the most, just to learn the mechanics of the system, learn the rules, see how everything works, see what I like, what I don't like. And moving forward, when I get into a larger type of gaming campaign at that point, I'm more well equipped with the tools I need to make it run more smoothly. And this one is no different, and that is Mork Borg. Now, Mork Borg is it's a dark game. It really is. It takes place on a dying planet, if you will, and the end is near, but you just don't know when it's going to happen. Any morning, the end of all will come, and everybody and everything upon the face of the existence dies. But until then, well, you are making your way across this formidable landscape of just evil, wicked darkness. Now, here's the thing about Mork that I have noticed. Borg, I'm sorry. The mechanic system in this is excellent, and for solo play, it is really, really enjoyable. Now, that's some of the pros to it. Some of the cons to it is, well, first of all, it's dark. And I mean, it's real dark. It's full of a lot of occultic images, which is the overall scheme of the game system. And some people, well, they may not like that. They may not agree with it. And, you know, I can understand, to each their own. But for me, I love it. I really do. I really love it. I love the way that the book was set up. Even when you read through the book, learning the system, and they have these different images and tables and everything that are not explained like you would expect when you read an RPG book that's going to break everything down to you in clear, concise explanations. This is very occultic. It makes you, well, search a little, dig a little bit, because it's not going to put it right out there in the open for you to see. You have to go through it a couple of times and discover those mysteries yourself, which is cool. I do like that about Mork Borg. The thing I really enjoy is the combat system and the save system and everything else that goes into it, because it's a very simple system. There's one number you have to deal with, 12. That's the base number for everything that you have to roll on your 20 cider to succeed and or fail. But of course, there's more that goes into it than that. And your defense number can be altered by the tier armor you have, and there's different weapons you can come across. And of course, the world is full of all kinds of things that could help and or hinder you greatly. And you never know until, well, you stumble upon it and you find it. But I have to admit, this little book right here, and even though it's an extremely simple system, leaves a lot for you. Leaves a lot for you to create. Like the older RPGs we used to see that I used to love so much, like the original Forgotten Realms campaign setting. The fact that they give you these huge maps and they give you the information that you need to know that's pertinent about some of the more larger populated areas of that world. Everything else is left up to you to create and design the way that you see it, which is nice compared to the newer systems that we see out there, that there's just this huge compilation of publishing for it that you can get lost in module books after module books. Now, for people who enjoy that work's already cut out for them, they just grab the book, open it up, and everything that they need to know is right there at their fingertips. That's the way to go. But if you're like me, you're old school, you like to create, you like to use your imagination and be able to come up with a storyline that is of your own. And it's really good to see a game system out there that still implements an area for a fertile imagination to be able to, at that point, explore. And yeah. But on top of that, with this, the other thing that I had picked up which was the Cult Feartory, was this one right here, which is equivalent. You could say it's like a campaign setting, but unto itself, it's really not. It's a collection of small adventures, fan type of stuff that has been written and submitted that they have taken and published and put into a large compilation and release to be used. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. But the interesting thing is this little pamphlet that they give you. Now, it may not look like much when you open it up, but in fact, this is the pamphlet to play solo adventures and how the creator of this system made this and how they suggest, if you're going to play a solo RPG with it, how to do that. And well, I'd have to say this game really ranks up there with me. It's really a good game. Now, it piques my interest. I really like I love horror movies. I love thriller movies. Those are some of my more favorite forms of entertainment there. So the fact that an RPG system that is based in a dark type of horror setting is right up my alley, and I enjoy it. And it's not Dungeons and Dragons. That's the cool thing about it. Even though it is set in a medieval type of era, there's a lot here, and it's a very dark system. But with that being said, it's going to be a dark game system for when the winter gets dark. This will be occupying my table. Alright, so with that being said and moved on, I want to talk about another game system that I have not played in a while, and I decided, and it came up in a conversation with a friend of mine, and he said, we haven't done this in a while, and I said, you're absolutely right. And I pulled the book off my shelf, and I decided this is going to be one of them in the lineup for this winter for my gaming, and that's going to be Blades in the Dark. Now, if you have never checked out Blades in the Dark, it is an excellent game system. I love the setting of Duskfall. I love everything about this and how they set it up, the time wheels that go into it. It's very well thought out. Now, this plays a little bit differently than your traditional type of RPG game would, where they more or less suggest running this almost kind of like a television series, if you will. Each game should be like a new episode continuing. But there's unique things about this for the fact that the entire setting takes place inside the city of Duskfall. So unlike a lot of other RPGs where you have this infinite amount of area to be able to go out and explore, you really can't do that in this game system. You're locked into this game system, and of course there are rival gangs everywhere, and your characters have always got to be on the lookout for the blue coats, because the blue coats are always looking to hunt you down and take what you have. It's a very, very cool system. I do enjoy it. The other thing that I found very unique about it that I love is the fact that you create your characters, but then your characters go into a crew. And you could break that up as thinking like an adventure party, if you will, but it's yours. Depending on what your crew is into. Are they just strictly, common street thugs to where they're pickpocketing and breaking in? Or are they chasing down rare, dangerous, magical artifacts? For the fact that you have to remember that the reason why you can't go outside the gates of Duskfall is because the world has been destroyed, and the entire city is protected by gates which are powered by demon blood that is harvested from the blood oceans of the giant demons, which are on the outside of the gates, which is why you can't go out there, because you'll never come back. Anyways, it's a unique game system. It really is. This is a, if you are kind of getting burned out on the old D&D and you're looking for something new to bring to your game table, maybe a way to change things up, add a little bit of sci-fi to and this world takes place, and it's not, I don't want to say steampunk because it's not steampunk, but the technology level is that of steam era, so everything is powered by steam, but you do have electricity and you have firearms and you have all those things. But the one thing that this world has is there's an overabundance of magic. But unlike a lot of RPG systems to where magic is harnessed and used by a magic user or a cleric or a sorcerer or whatever it is, whatever system you're playing that you have a magical class, in this game system, magic can be very dangerous. And even possessing certain artifacts or even knowledge about certain magic things could spell doom for your character and your crew. But everything you need is inside this book. It is a sandbox RPG, which I love. And if you've never experienced any type of sandbox RPGs, I highly recommend it. One of the best out there as far as sandbox RPGs go, and replayability, and just every time you sit down it's a great game, is Forbidden Lands. That's an excellent one. But Blades in the Dark is an excellent game. And if you, like I said, are looking for something different than D&D, looking to break out of D&D or Pathfinder or whatever it is that you're playing and looking for something a little bit different, Blades in the Dark may be up your alley. Now, the next game I'm going to talk about, I have played several game sessions with this, and it is unique. I really do like it. Character creation is simple. As a matter of fact, all these games here I just showed you, Blades in the Dark, Mork, Borg, and now Nibiru. Character creation is extremely simple. There's not a whole lot to it. As a matter of fact, it'll only take you a couple of minutes to make a character. But where Nibiru is unique, what I love about Nibiru is the fact that the entire game, the whole premise of the game is your character wakes up with amnesia. You don't know your past, you don't know why you're there, you don't know anything. And as you adventure through this world, at that point, you regain memories. And as you regain those memories, you also gain bonuses to your rolls. Now, this game is driven by a D4 dice mechanic, which is unique. I've never really played one with a D4, but like a lot of game systems out there to where you're interpreting dice. So you would throw, looking at your dice pool, how many D4s you have for whatever skill you're trying to, at that point, see if you succeed at. If you roll all fours at that point, you have a memory. And you go through, and it will help you create that memory. The book in here is going to give you a whole lot of great ideas depending on where your character comes from on this massive ship they call Nibiru, and help you create that memory. Now here's the thing. You get 8 memories per page. Now if at any time you get a setback, and the setback is if you go to do a skill and you roll all ones. Now there is, you have to pay for that. There's a consequence for that. And in doing so, those things will have a tendency to be a burden to you and have a tendency to take dice away from your skill rolls. And well, here's the bad thing. You don't want one of those on your page, because if you do, that means all your memories and your bonuses are for naught, and you're not allowed to utilize them to their full potential, which unto itself can add more unique twists and turns into it. But don't let that scare you off just yet. Nibiru is vast. And when I mean vast, it's a vast, huge world. This is an RPG that's set up to give you, let's look at a number. And as you can see, the map that they give you right here, it's pretty decent size. There's a lot that you can discover and find in there. But here's the thing, Nibiru, the whole setting of Nibiru is actually this huge space station that's floating out in the middle of space, created by, well, they really don't know, the Anunnaki maybe, but for whatever reason, each city at that point is a safe haven. And once you go outside these cities, you're now out into the unknown. And the further ends of the space station that you go, the G-gravity gets intense to the point that there's some areas that nobody has ever gone out to and never come back from, which just builds more mysteries. And as your character regains memories at that point, it helps perpetuate the story a little bit further forward. And at that point, you're trying to pick up the breadcrumbs as to who you are or your characters are, and what is this all about? What is happening? It's a very unique game system. I don't think I've ever played a game to where your character starts out with amnesia and you're trying to figure out who you are. Typically, most RPG systems, you start out and you know who your character is and their background, but this one's a little bit different. And the entire RPG is about learning who your character is. Now, like I said, the dice mechanic is very simple. You have D4s, and all you need when you're using a skill, using a weapon, whatever it is that you're using, when you roll your dice, you want at least 1 4. If you have 1 4 at that point, it's a success. If you have none, you did not succeed. And if you roll a 1, well, it's a fail. And of course, as I explained earlier, if you have all 4s, you gain a memory. And if you have all 1s, you gain a setback. So there's a lot that goes into it. And like I said, for me, I have done they've been about hour and a half, closer to 2 hours game sessions in this, and I have really enjoyed it. Like I said, I was very, very impressed at just how quickly character creation is, and the fact that you can jump right into the game system right away. Now, unlike a lot of other RPG games out there, where you're going to have a nice detailed index to go to look up specifics, you're not going to find that. As a matter of fact, even though this is a beautifully published book, and there's a lot to this that I love, the thing about Nibiru, unlike the way most RPGs are set up, this is not. So you really have to put forth the effort at first, and you have to read through it. That's the one thing about Nibiru, unlike a lot of other RPGs out there, where if you've been playing any type of RPG games for a while, you can pick them up and you can go straight to the combat section or the magic section or whatever it is in there and read it and get a really good idea of how the game system operates with the dice mechanic. And then at that point, you're like, okay, I got this, and you can, at that point, you understand, I should say, the game. Whereas if Nibiru's not like that. Nibiru, you actually have to read through it. And reading through it, it's going to explain to you how the book is set up and how to approach it and use it. Which, unto itself, is cool. And so 2 of my friends have this book, and it's interesting to get their viewpoints on it. One, he loves the setting, but he just doesn't like the fact that your character starts out with amnesia, and the whole adventure is about finding out who you are. And the other one, he just doesn't like the dice mechanic. He just does not like it and would like to use a different dice mechanic in the system with it. So it's interesting to see and to get that feedback on it. Me, honestly, I enjoy Nibiru just the way that it is, and I wouldn't change it. That's the whole thing about Nibiru, is it's just a completely different gaming experience. It's unlike a D&D campaign to where you're going to have a group of characters that are going to set out on an agreed idea of what they want to do and how they want to achieve a certain goal. Nibiru is not like that. It's very mysterious, and as a matter of fact, every game session at that point, you learn a little bit more about your character and a little bit more about the world around you. So, if you're looking for something completely different that's sci-fi based and is more, how do I put this? Nibiru is an excellent system solo for the fact that the dice rolls, it's either you succeed and or you fail. The simplicity of it, it's a very simple system. The downside to it, like I said, if you're looking for a game system that is set up that it's very easy to navigate, very easy to find the tables, the charts, and index to find exact explanations on a particular rule, you're not going to find that in Nibiru. But what you will find in Nibiru is you will find an excellent game system, a vast, vast world that they give you, and even if you decide to take some of the elements out of Nibiru and put them into an existing game system you have, there is a wealth of information and great ideas for the gaming table that will come out of this book. I promise you that. And, well, this winter, it's going to find a whole lot more gaming time on my table. So the next one I want to talk about, and I have had some fun with this game, and man, I did an entire video on the realms of Terranoth, and what I love about this, the Fantasy Flight, how it's basically a collection of Fantasy Flight's worlds. If you enjoy their board games such as Ruinbound or Descent, Ruined Wars, to name a few, and you enjoy them and you enjoy that background and that type of story, narrative, and lore, you will fall in love with the realms of Terranoth instantly. Cool thing about it is the way that this system is written is you can use this for any RPG system you are currently using. So for those of you out there that are using 5e of D&D, you would be able to, at that point, make a campaign from this quite easily. And matter of fact, any edition of D&D you're using, you could use this, or any type of fantasy RPG. Realms of Terranoth would be really easy to convert and use. That's the cool thing. But they designed it with this game system in mind, and that is Genesys. Genesys is, oh man. Genesys is an amazing system. And just for the fact that that's exactly what it is. It's a system. It's not, it's an RPG system. Let me just get that out of the way. Now, it does not have a set time frame, a set genre. As a matter of fact, it's a system. It says here is a complete RPG system. Here are the dice mechanics that go with this system. And here are the templates how to make the characters for that system the way you want it. So if you're looking for an RPG that maybe you get together with a game group and you guys want to play an old school dungeon crawler, you can do it with Genesys, and it'll show you how to create them characters and the settings and make them. But let's say you want to play a far in advanced sci-fi type of game system with we'll just say like Star Trek. Let's use the example Deep Space Nine. Your characters start out on a space station, and you want to create that. This will show you how to make the characters, how to design everything, and it's got a wealth of information in it. It really does. There is so much good information in this. Character creation is actually simple. It's one of these games, how do I put it? And I've ran into this a couple of times with some game systems. Sometimes they can be so simple that you actually overthink it, and you are the one making it more complicated because, well, that's what we've become accustomed to in gaming recently, as we've seen these newer game systems come out, and as they try to compete with the electronic gaming, they're trying to make games more complicated with all these tables and skill charts and these randomized charts and all these other things and these different variations of different rules, and then you have these definitions that go into them to help you break them down and to apply it to the situation that you're in. Maybe you won't find that in Genesys. So the thing that I love about Genesys and both Nibiru as well is, unlike a lot of other RPG systems out there, I don't care if you're playing basic fantasy or D&D or Swords and Wizardry or any of them D20 type of RPGs, you notice when it comes to your inventory's there. It is what it is. But besides that, it's basically just a ledger to show, hey, your character may have this piece of equipment that you may need. You get to an area and there's a large chasm to cross and you need a rope. Well, one of your characters has the rope, and at that point you'd roll a save and see if they're able to tie it up correctly for everybody to get across this deep chasm safely to the other side to continue on with the adventure. You passed, good for you, and the game keeps going on. But where Genesys and Nibiru are different is your equipment means something. It really does. Your equipment adds bonuses to the dice rolls or penalties, just depending on what you have. So it actually does add more into the game. It really alters the game, if you will. I love that. I love them game systems that do that, because now your equipment is real. Is to your gaming sessions. It's more than just, oh look, my character has a torch and a flint and steel. Beyond that, you light a torch, and if you're playing in a group, your dungeon master would say, okay, you have lit a torch, now you have a 30-foot radius as to what you can see. So, but with this game system, a lantern does more than that. A lantern actually gives you an extra die on a roll. It gives you an advantage to that skill check. Now, there are some drawbacks to Genesys, and really the biggest drawback that I see, and it's personally me, are the dice. The entire game system is supported by a D6, a D8, and a D12. They all have different symbols on them, which correspond to different effects, I guess I should say. You have good effects, which means you succeed or your character may have done well, and you also have setbacks, and you have these other symbols that add into it. Basically, it's a type of system. You roll the dice and either you succeed and or you fail. But with this, when you interpret the dice, you could succeed at the skill check that you did, but you would have a setback, and that setback could affect a character, could affect the storyline, it could affect a piece of gear. You just never know. So it adds a little bit more into that. Now, the cool thing about Genesys and Nibiru, where I say they work out very well solo played as well, is the fact that randomized tables, as a matter of fact, if you're using any type of emulator like a Mythic emulator, or for like me, I use Scarlet Heroes for a lot, or the Adventure Crafter, so on and so forth, those extra tables actually enhance the game and really bring the game to the forefront and make it more enjoyable. Whereas sometimes tables can slow a game down. You're not going to find that with Genesys, and as a matter of fact, you will not find it with Nibiru either. Both of them, I enjoy that variability of you could succeed, you could fail, or you could ultimately gain something. You could succeed and gain, or you could fail and have a huge setback later on to come back and haunt you later. You just never know. And all that adds even more into the whole entire game experience, and which makes it an excellent game in the fact that it's just not the same old dungeon crawl or the same old, hey, let's go into a tavern and meet up with with whoever to get some information as to where to go on for our next quest, that type of stuff. So it adds more variability into it, and it gives you a lot more freedom. And like I said, the thing with Genesys I love is Genesys does that. Genesys gives you the freedom to do whatever you want to do with whatever genre you want to do. Medieval fantasy, you can do it. Sci-fi, we'll say Cthulhu type of setting, you can do it. High fantasy, you want to be driving around in huge mechs or huge starships traveling the cosmos in search of new planets and stuff like that, you can do it. You can use this for anything you can think of underneath the sun. If you can think of an idea of an RPG setting that you would like to do, the Genesys system will show you how to bring that to life, and simply how they do it. It's very simple. And I really strongly do suggest this book. If you don't have it in your library, it might be one you may want to look into and pick up. And like I said, there are setbacks to this game system. You buy the main core rule book, but you have to buy the dice separately. And then when you get the dice, as you can see right back here, they all come with these symbols on them, and all those symbols relate to something different. And like I said, the thing that is kind of the setback to the game is it does take you a while to learn what the different symbols mean, combination of symbols, and how to interpret them. That is, I'm going to say, the hardest thing to Genesys is learning the dice mechanic to it. But once you get the dice mechanic down, the RPG is actually excellent. And it's a very good, excellent RPG system. And those are going to be the RPGs that I'm going to look forward to having on my table this winter and playing a whole lot more. Now, I'm currently in a campaign right now with the Genesys system in Terranoth. It's a solo cooperative play. So I will be making a whole new setting for myself and going from there. But board games. Oh, how I love board games. And one of the things that I kind of laugh. So there's been a lot of changes to come down into the gaming hobby. My friend Trevor brought up to me and he showed me Gen Con that just happened over the weekend. They had they reported 100 people attend. So huge changes are happening in the gaming industry. One of the things that have occurred and happened that it kind of stinks, and if you're an old gamer like me, you understand this. We've seen this shift from companies producing stuff that we really enjoyed, we really engaged with, captured our imaginations, and we loved, to huge commercialism. And just at that point, it's all about the buck. It's who cares about the fans, whether they enjoy it or not. We just want to make a quick buck. And unfortunately, it's ruining their hobby. It really is. And it's sad to see that. And a very good example I'm going to bring up is the Hasbro reprint of Hero Quest. First and foremost, why do they have to do a GoFundMe? Really? They're Hasbro. I mean, why? Why? Why wouldn't you just manufacture it, put it out there for retail, and you're going to make the same amount of money? Or are you? And that's the thing. The fact that they no longer are licensed, I should say, cooperatively licensed with Game Workshop, and there's a lot of elements that the Games Workshop put into Hero Quest that they had done away with, and now Hasbro is forced to put in different elements to the game to take them places. And I've watched a lot of video reviews on it. Some people complaining about how they don't like how the artwork is now, it looks too cartoony, to other people that are saying this is just a money grab is all it is, which I kind of believe, to other people who are saying they can't wait till they get their hands on it whenever they do release it, because it just seems like it keeps getting put off. Now, me personally, never ordered it. When it came out, I thought it was cool until I learned a little bit more about it, and then I was just like, okay, it's not Hero Quest. It's Hero Quest, but it's not Hero Quest because it doesn't have all the encounters that Games Workshop had put in Hero Quest. But with that being said, there is another option out there. There is something else. If you enjoy Hero Quest, or you missed out on Hero Quest, or perhaps you're just looking for a good old classic dungeon crawl type of board game, let me introduce you to Dungeon Saga. Now, this is one that I have looked at for a few years. It started out as a Kickstarter, believe it or not, and then, well, it's been out there since. I bought some of their terrain packages that they have released, like the doors that I use for my tabletop. But when I bought the main set, it all came in there. But it didn't take me that long to look at this and say, this is very reminiscent. This is really, really, it feels like Hero Quest. So then I did a little bit of digging, and of course, found it on the internet, so could be true, could be false, don't know. I'm going to put it out there, that's a disclaimer, could be true, could be false. That the original employees that had worked with Games Workshop and helped develop Hero Quest, they had left and started their own gaming company called Mantic, which is this right here. Now, what is it? So, Dungeon Saga is it's a dungeon crawler experience. You get modular tiles that are printed on both sides, and you can play this game one of two ways. They have a huge amount of quests for them. So you go through the quest book, and it'll show you how to lay out the dungeon tile, where to put all the tokens at, how many enemies are there, and at that point you just play through. And they do tell you that each quest has been test played to be very balanced, and a certain amount of strategy that goes into it as well to challenge you. Now, the cool thing about this game system, if you remember, the original Hero Quest was designed for a minimum of 2 players. Now, the base set of Dungeon Saga is no different. It goes at you with the premise that somebody is going to be the overlord in the game, and they're going to be the opponent, the guy that's setting out the traps and commanding the monsters and trying to kill the adventurers, and then, of course, somebody's going to run the adventures. But they did come up with a follow-up that was called the Adventurer's Companion, which I picked up, which is really cool, because at this point, it takes the game to a next level. And what it does is not only does it give you the solo variant, And, oh man, there's so much that goes into it. But it also allows you and gives you the template in the book to create your own heroes. Yes, to create your own heroes for the game, and shows you how to build them. And it even says in here, which I've never seen any game manufacturer do that, well, it gives you all the stats in the book for every single model ever made for this game. So therefore, if you don't have their miniatures, but you have miniatures, you can at that point use your own miniatures you already have on the game tiles to use the game, which is really, really cool. But with that being said, I mean, the fact that they give you freedom to create your own heroes, create your own monsters, be able to make your own quest, a solo variant, and a whole lot more that goes into it. The thing I find the most interesting about this game is what they call here, which is the Uncharted Dungeons, and then of course, the Invisible Overlord. So the Invisible Overlord is very, very interesting and how it works out. And of course, I'm forgetting one deck that goes in with that as well, which is the event deck as well. So you can either play the pre-generated quest out of the set, or you can sit down and draw, depending on how many rooms you want your dungeon to have. You want it to be 3, 6, 12, heck, 30, it's up to you. You can use the whole deck if you want. And then at that point, you would build your Invisible Overlord deck, your Overlord deck cards, and an event deck. So essentially, every time you go through the game, it's going to be different. It's never going to be the same. The Uncharted Dungeon card you pull up compared to the event card that's going to fall on the Invisible Overlord card, then the Overlord cards that are going to be drawn to populate and fill this dungeon every single time will be different. No two games will ever be alike, which is interesting. That's a high amount of replayability. It's one of them games you're never going to get burned out on, because even though it's a dungeon crawler and you're doing the same thing, and the stats aren't going to change from the creatures and all that, and I get that. That does. And the way that the dungeon's going to unfold, and at that point, elaborately roll out on your table in front of you, will. Now, the other unique thing about this game system is they give you 3D terrain, high quality 3D terrain that you can paint however you want. It comes with doors and cabinets and furniture and everything else. And the thing that I like about it is the furniture, when it is on the tile, actually at that point offers cover not only to your character, but also to the enemies as well, which is cool. It brings into things I really do love. You have miniature skirmish battle mixed with a little bit of RPG element. Yes, RPG element. Oh, I failed to tell you about that. This game system does that as well. You can set it up for a campaign setting if you want. Heck, you can even set it up, and it describes in there, if you wanted to use this game and set it up just like an RPG, it explains to you how to make taverns, how to make towns, how to make everything, and how your characters can benefit from those in between the dungeon settings and advance in level. And once you advance in level, you get more powerful encounters to reflect that. But you also get glory. Aha! So there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that I really enjoy about it. Now, I haven't painted anything yet, because since I've gotten Dungeon Saga, I had to set up on my table for quite a long time, and I played a lot through it. And I really enjoy it. I really, really do. It's a classic dungeon crawl. Reminds me a whole lot of Hero Quest. A whole lot. And the thing I like about it is it's still available, and it's a lot cheaper than buying the reprint of Hero Quest. Just saying. So for those of you out there that are looking forward to your copy of Hero Quest, hey, game on, my friends, and more power to you. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying if you enjoy the older Hero Quest and you're looking for a game system that has that same quality and goes into, let me back up. If you're looking for a game system that would mix both Hero Quest and Advanced Hero Quest together as a complete set, and at that point would give you a huge amount of material to work with, check out Dungeon Saga. But there's always Hero Quest as well, if you want to go with Hero Quest. Me personally, Dungeon Saga is where it's going to be at. Now, for those of you that have recently played Descent, if you like Descent, I love Descent. Descent is a very well balanced game. It's an excellent game. You're going to find Dungeon Saga is a lot like Descent, but it's a little bit more watered down than Descent, if you will, for the fact that it's going to introduce to you in their game how to play the game, the miniature part of it, and how everything goes into it. Moving on from there, you can do the book quests if you want to do the book quests, how they set them out. But really, the game is really detailed towards you creating it and making it a world the way you want to make it, filling the encounters in the way you want to do those, and building a story out of it. So it's kind of, for me and my gaming taste, this game is kind of cool because it's bringing in three different areas that I really do enjoy about gaming. You got the story creation and character creation over here, you got the minis over here, and in the center you have the campaign building and the world building, everything all in one box. So that's going to be another one of the games that is going to populate my table quite a bit this winter, and I'm going to enjoy with, and we'll see where it goes. Now, as far as taking this game and trying to make a complete RPG system out of it, I think you might, you're going to find some challenges there. Only because, I'm not saying you couldn't do it, but it gives you enough to keep creating a classic dungeon crawl and keep going through a classic dungeon crawl. And of course, we know with any type of really good RPG system, you're not just at that point confined to a dungeon. You got a whole entire world to explore, or worlds, just depending on how the game is set up and how you envision it. But those are my thoughts and not yours, my friends. And with that, I think I've taken enough of your time, and I think this is where I'm gonna wind the video down at, and yeah, move on. So that's what I have planned for this winter, and it's coming soon. I know up here in Michigan, the days are getting shorter, the nights are getting cooler, and I'm noticing pumpkin pies more and more everywhere. So that can only mean one thing: winter is very close. And as the words were spoken in the series Game of Thrones, winter is coming, my friends. Alright, so that being said, if you enjoyed the video, click the like button. Lets me know you like it. I'll make more content like it. And like I said, if you're new here, you just stopped in, please feel free to click the subscribe button, followed by the bell icon. Every time I upload a new video, you'll get a notification so you don't miss one. And with that, this is Artichoke Dip, signing off, my friends.